Welcome everyone to the very first live stream of Alchemize with Alanna. So glad you're all here with me. What does this even mean to alchemize? Well, in really thinking about this is about taking the opportunity to transform our inner world so that our outer world naturally rises to meet it. Because how often do we take the time to do that? I don't know about you, but I am very busy every day, all day long, back-to-back meetings. And yes, I take the time to have a break, eat something, that sort of thing. But to really reflect on my life, what I want for myself, what my intention is. And I'm a very intentional person. If anybody gets to know me on a personal level, I'm highly, highly intentional in everything that I do. All that to say, one of the things that I love to do for others is to help them transmute, to reframe what isn't working to what can be. So today we're going to be talking about how to build your inner authority, what it means to have self-trust, and to access that deep down inner wisdom. And then also, what are some ways that you can free yourself tactically and emotionally, because we are all emotional beings. So I love that I'm also here with Jessie Lizak with Reveting. So thank you, Jessie, for being my partner in crime to kick this off and to support me in the process. So
absolutely. I'm so happy to be here with you, and I love the topics, and I'm excited to learn with you and from you.
Awesome. Well, so the intention of this series is really about transformation. And I know that word has been thrown around a lot in the coaching world. But like I said, it's really, how can true transformation actually occur? It is about alchemizing. It's about transmutation. It's about reframing what's going on inside of you. So if you think about it, if you reflect on a time in your life where something in your outer world changed, but it took you changing something inside of yourself first, whether it's emotionally or a belief system that you had or a mindset. And we all get stuck in it. I'm not perfect either. So that's really the intention of this on an ongoing basis. And then, I can actually live in multiple worlds at the same time. So not just the inner world, but also the tactical version where things have to get done. So there's the being and the doing, right? So the inner world is the being, and then the outer world of the doing. So taking action and how that translates in whatever that means for you, whether it's you own a business and you're running that business, you've got a team, you want to scale, you've got clients, you've got a sales process, or maybe you're a senior leader in an organization and you want to have a ripple effect, an impact that's going to be productive and positive and create a culture where everybody feels like they can grow and develop and contribute. So that's what alchemy really means to me. And I invite you to look at, what does it mean for you? So for me, it's about looking at the things that feel heavy or chaotic or where you might feel stuck, and then turning that into, or transmuting that into something that will provide you with clarity, into something that's energizing for you, and will give you that forward momentum. So I'll stop there for a moment. Anything else, Jessie, that you want to chime in about from what I've said so far?
Ooh, that's all so good. I love the word alchemy. I was really glad when you chose it for the show. I don't know why it just has such a good ring to me, but maybe it's just because to me it means like you are evolving into your higher self in a way, like you are alchemizing, you are like taking what you have as your data or your fuel, and you're burning it to create something new. Like with data, you would feed it to AI to become something different. With fuel, you would burn it to get somewhere in a car. So that's sort of how I visualize the word alchemy, is like you are doing something to get to this higher space of your growth. And so I think it's really beautiful.
Good. I'm glad it resonates. It's yeah. Well, and how this shows up for each person on the planet is different because it depends on, what their values are, what their priorities are, what is most present for them in their life at the time. And I most often work with senior leaders in corporations or business owners that have been in business already for 10 years or so. So it's not about helping them be successful. They've already figured that part out. And yet, they get to a point where they realize I might need some outside help, like an objective partner, confidant, someone to brainstorm some things with, say things out loud. Like I even had a client the other day who said, I just want to say something out loud to you that I feel safe with you, because if I said it to anybody in my company, they would take it too seriously. And he's like, I want to quit. And I can understand how, like, if he had said that just, from a present in the moment place, somebody else might think, oh my God, this person literally wants to leave the company. But once he got it out, I said, where do you want to go with this? And he just said, you know what? Actually, the fact that I just was able to say it out loud, I think I'm good. I'm like, great. And then we were able to move on. It was funny.
But sometimes it's all you need. It's just to say it out loud to move on. I love that.
Yep.
Well, we had Stacy Button in the chat. So hi, Stacy Button.
Hi, Stacy. It's good to have you here. Yes.
Would love to hear her thoughts on the word alchemy, or anyone else watching for that matter. I mean, I feel like it could mean so many different things for so many different people.
And often it's interpreted as alchemizing, say, metal, right? A precious metal. But there's so much more to it. It's truly a process that we have the ability to do within ourselves to tap into what is true for ourselves. And that's what I mean also by inner authority, because there's a lot of noise out there, especially right now in the world, in so many respects. So there's what's happening in our immediate, intimate world, our little bubble, as well as the larger world at hand. And often people are feeling that, but they don't know how to make sense of it. And they also don't recognize how much things out there are having an impact on how they're feeling, and therefore like how they show up, the decisions that they make. And it can be distracting. It can actually literally get in the way of hearing their own inner wisdom, their own inner voice, to do something as simple as make a decision, even though we make tens of thousands of decisions every single day. I think the last number I heard was something like 65,000 decisions that we make every day, some little, some big, but that's what is required of us. Layla says, alchemize means to transform. Yeah, taking what you have, even pain or struggle, and turning it into strength, wisdom, and something more valuable. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. You can take pain or hurt and turn it, alchemize it, or you can take love and alchemize it. I love that. Yeah. And it's such a great word. And I'm glad that you brought up the part about metals, because doesn't it mean to like turn a regular metal into like a precious metal or something, like gold?
Into gold. Yeah, that's the belief. Yeah. Well, and think of what gold means. I mean, gold actually, in terms of this last year, so I've really gotten into studying about anything frequency based.
Okay. Love that.
And gold as a precious metal, it has a very high frequency. It's not just meant for jewelry. And so, and then when you think about that and things that have a high frequency, and then you mentioned love, there's this belief that the highest frequency is love when it comes to emotion, but it's not, it's authenticity.
Yeah.
So this is another reason why I love working with people, and I practice it myself. I mean, I'm human, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I get confronted and get triggered by things, and I can get thrown off too. So I have to reconnect with myself and really check in with my own inner wisdom and my, what does self-trust mean for me, to trust my own perception of things, and therefore what decision I might make about something and how I might communicate something, because I am a communication expert. And that's another thing that I help people do too, depending on the scenario. Let's see,
So Stacy,
Stacy.
yeah, she says
Yeah.
alchemy transforming basic characteristics into something much more valuable, reaching full potential or full actualization of who we truly are, not the ego or the mass. Love that. Not the ego or the mass. It's so easy
Yeah.
to put a mask on these days or any day, really. But yeah, we don't even know we're doing it sometimes.
Yeah. That's, there's I have a distinction when it comes to self-awareness. So I talk about this every once in a while with clients and then on podcasts. So I'll share it here too. I don't know
Yeah,
if you've
I'd
heard me
love to
talk
hear
about
it.
this. Yeah. So, well, let me say this. So if I was to go up to any adult on the planet and ask them, do you think you're a self-aware person? What do you think their answer might be?
Yes, they're going to say I'm self-aware.
Yes. And yet, look at the dynamics. I'll just say, we'll call it that. Look at the dynamics that occur in the world, in the workplace, in personal relationships, right? Or even the relationship that somebody might have with themselves, which is the first and primary and most important relationship that you have. So I created this distinction of there's the self-aware person and then there's the profoundly self-aware person. And here's the difference. So the self-aware person will say, if somebody calls them out on a certain behavior or, oh, you do X, Y, Z, they'll say, yeah, I know. Yep, I do that. But I'm aware of that. So, yep, I know. But then they do nothing about it. They don't do anything different. They might recognize the impact that it has on them or the impact that it has on others, but they don't do anything different. The profoundly self-aware person says, you know what? I know that I do that. I've heard that before. And I recognize how it's affecting me and how it's affecting other people. And so they make this decision. It's usually a quiet internal decision to start doing things a little differently. But it's a practice. You're not going to get it right out of the gate. If you do, awesome. Maybe it was something a little bit more simple. But if it's a big one, especially something that you've had for a long time, that also might be deeper emotionally, it's going to be a little bit harder to transform. So at the same time, you got to practice it. So I would say it's not about getting it right. It's just simply about practicing it. So in practicing it, at first, you're going to reflect on it after it's already happened. And the key is don't beat yourself up. It's like, okay, there it is. I did it again. Don't want to do that next time. What caused me to do that? So then they start reflecting on the scenario, the situation, and the prompt, the cue that made them do it. That's where a deep sense of self-awareness can come in. So then it's going to come up again because these are habitual patterns, behavioral patterns, emotional patterns, which also show up in the work world, of course. So it's about catching it, starting to catching it in the moment and having the courage, even in the discomfort, to say, you know what, time out. This is not how I wanted this to go. I want to go in a different direction. Give me a moment. And just taking the pause, like giving yourself permission to take the pause. The other person might not realize what you're doing because it's an unusual behavior pattern. At the same time, they'll most likely appreciate it. So you'll pivot in the moment and you're going to do the best that you can with the tools that you have in that moment and just practice it and see how it goes. It may go right the first time. It may not go right the first time. The more you continue to practice that, the more you won't catch yourself after. And you'll actually be able to catch it before it even happens. You won't even have to pivot in the moment. And so you'll see it coming. And then you'll realize I'm not going to get trapped by that again. I'm going to divert myself and pivot before I even get trapped in it, in that old behavioral pattern. And so you end up engaging in it in a completely different way. And then you practice it so much that after a while you start to realize, wait a second, I haven't done that thing in a while. And that's what it means to be profoundly self-aware. And then it doesn't mean, are you cured in essence, right? Like, are you never going to do it again? Maybe, maybe not. But now you'll know the whole process to go through. When you catch yourself, you're not going to beat yourself up about it. And you know how to pivot more quickly and see it coming even more because maybe there was new information. So I'll be quiet for a moment. And yeah.
Yeah, I know. You're right. I love how you put all of that as well. And want to hear from the audience too, because that there's a lot to take in there. Um, in terms of like being in that position where you are like confronted with something, like you said, where it's like it might be uncomfortable, but like you have to just take action. And like when you're in that position, though, where you could either go two directions, right? You could go and you could say, you know what, I'm not going to face the uncomfort. I'm going to do what's comfortable. And I'm going to either react in a way that's unpleasant to people, or I'm going to just like be avoidant and go my own way. Or, there's a lot of different ways that could be. Or you could like go forward with the discomfort that will help you alchemize and get to your highest self. But it does take that discomfort. Like, how do you advise people when they're in that noisy place of not being able to make a decision, but needing to, essentially?
Well, I mean, it depends on what it is, right? Because there's so many contextual nuances, and then depending on the person that you're interacting with, some situations might be easier or harder than others. So some real examples might be, okay, you're a leader and you have to have a tough conversation with a direct report that wants to get promoted. In essence, they want your role, but you're not going to exit your role until you get promoted. And you also don't want to lose this person. I mean, this just came up in a coaching session I had earlier today. And she said, I don't want to lose him. He's a huge value and an asset to me. So how do I be more transparent and have the courage to say what needs to be said, while also not wanting to leave and think about leaving? And the thing is it's about the sense of control. She can't ultimately control the direction of the company. She can't control when she gets promoted, therefore when he might get promoted. And when that opportunity does arrive, is he going to be the top candidate? Is she going to be encouraged by senior leadership to look outside of the organization or even outside the company, right? So are there going to be other people considered besides just this one person that right now is appearing to be the ideal candidate? And also the tough conversation of, although this is what she would want for him and what he would want for himself, is he really ready? And right now, to her, it appears as though there's certain things that he still needs to work on to get ready for that kind of senior leadership role. And so how can she help him professionally develop doing that when he, from an ego standpoint, feels like he deserves it, he's ready, like, let's do this. And then there's an essence of impatience going on. So that's just one type of scenario that might happen. And it's about expectations. Wait, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute, but I was saying, but yeah, you can't just let people walk all over you just because you're afraid they might leave. Because at the end of the day, the right person, you'll be able to have hard conversations with them and not be afraid of those things. But
yeah, absolutely.
You do need to have inner authority and inner wisdom and self-trust to be able to, I don't want to say stand your ground, but like, you know what I mean? Yeah, just stand your ground.
It is about, weirdly, people need to give themselves permission. I'm not saying they need to, but like the way it shows up, it's as if they need to give themselves permission to stand their ground and say, hey, wait a second, I'm the business owner or I'm the leader, and this is the conversation that needs to be had. It's their own discomfort with having it. And that is the deeper self-reflection, the deeper inner work that needs to be done. And it's only when they really start to put that into practice, as I mentioned before, where they're going to develop that self-trust and confidence in being able to communicate that, because it's probably going to come up again, especially with leaders, unless you're ready to move out of that kind of role or let go of your business or exit and sell the business, or delegate and start to hand off that level of responsibility to somebody else so that you can go and be responsible for other things. But another client that I have right now owns a company, and they've got a sales team, and they brought me in because they do want to exit within a couple of years. They want to make sure that they're fully prepared for that. And learning some things about how the organization is structured and how this business owner is leading or not leading the team, actually not leading the team. This business owner hired a sales coach to work with the team because there were things that they're not comfortable doing. And so we've been talking about, well, what if you did? It's if you were to, because it's their own discomfort. And then to be able to role play or hear themselves say things out loud, or if you were to approach it in this way, and it's to face fears. It's going back to the fear of like, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I don't want to let them down. I don't want them to leave. It's all these fears that business owners and leaders have when they're trying to grow an organization.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. I mean, it's scary when you're putting yourself out there as the founder. And it really does test a person too, like who you are and figuring those things out. And like, you can be wrong. You can make decisions sometimes, and you got people counting on you, and you can be wrong. And then you let people down, and not only do you let them down, you can let their families down. And so there's a lot to make you question yourself there, not to like, I guess, defend the inner critic, but I'm just sort of defending the founder, because it becomes a lot to take on. I've felt that myself.
Yeah. But, and yes, these are the growing pains of being a leader and growing what it means to really step into a powerful ownership of leadership. And then you become a model to others. So how you show up as a leader, whether it's in a larger organization, corporation, or as a business owner, you're being observed, you're being watched. People are looking at you to see what behaviors are appropriate, what's acceptable, how it's done here in this, business unit. And then they will act accordingly, or they'll rebel against it or reject it. And then that will give you other feedback. It's feedback, right? It's feedback. So as a leader, feedback can be verbal, and behavior is feedback as well.
And then there's nonverbals too, like the eye rolls and all those things, the crossed arms, or the professional politics.
I had that conversation with someone the other day of, politics are going to exist in every company. Some people think that they're going to be able to escape politics, but they show up everywhere. And
they really do.
Sometimes it's also because there's a hierarchy in companies. And sometimes, it can show up in unproductive ways. All that to say, decisions have to be made. There are certain decisions that have to be made at certain levels. And then there's the need to know, right? So if somebody is C-suite or SVP or VP, there's a certain level of need to know of information that, say, managers won't. And I know that can be frustrating for people because their teams that are, or direct reports that are reporting to them, are feeling like, well, hey, don't you know this? They think they know everything, and they don't. And yet they still have to make decisions. Sometimes I think, or it probably, the experience for middle management is that where they are is some of the hardest roles to have, because they are in that in-between place.
Yeah. Middle management. Yeah, that is hard, because you do have like the stresses of like managing people, but then you have all of those people ahead of you too.
Yeah.
Definitely. I would love to hear from people in the comments. I know there's 2 on YouTube that at least we can see, looks like. And then folks on LinkedIn, like leave your comments. But so in terms of like how to build inner authority, inner wisdom, and self-trust, how would you advise someone, like what are the 3 actionable tips like I could take away or someone in the comments could take away to be like, here's how I get the self-trust so that I can just go be wrong and be okay with it. You know, I can like go make those decisions or take risks and be that founder. Like, how do you do that?
It's going to require the practice of self coaching. You're going to have to take some time to yourself, go somewhere by yourself. And it doesn't have to be a long, sometimes it's just 10 or 15 minutes, if that, but to ask yourself some real questions. So, there's 2 questions actually. I'm a geek about brain science, and I don't know if we'll have time to get into that today, but maybe another time. That said, we are, when it comes to brain science, we're mostly led by our subconscious based on past experience. And our brain will want to protect us no matter what, which sometimes becomes, or often it becomes, an obstacle. And so even though they want to do something or make a decision about something, if it's not in what I call your file cabinet or your tape recorder, and it's not there, all of a sudden you're going to feel the self-doubt, the fear, the other things kick in. And it's sort of like a red flag, don't do this. Or I don't know if I should do this, right? So there's 2 questions that I came up with, somewhat similar, for people to ask themselves as to whether or not they should move forward with it. So one is what I'm about to do in alignment with the person that I want to become? If the answer is yes, then do it. The other, very similar, but a tiny bit different, is what I'm about to do in alignment with what I want to achieve going forward? If the answer is yes, then do it. Because regardless of outcome, and this is where it's also important to, again, in terms of self-awareness, not be attached to outcome, because in the outcome, you're going to experience something that's going to help you prepare and grow and develop yourself. It might be you met someone that you needed to meet, but had you not said yes to it, you wouldn't have. You might learn a new skill. Had you not gone forward with it and put it into practice, you may not have had that skill. You may now know how to do something or not do something that you didn't know before. So it's all going in that file cabinet where you can use it in a future moment. But again, that requires a certain level of self-awareness to know what your values are, what's important to you, what you do want to achieve, and the vision that you have for yourself, which also requires you to slow down and be thoughtful or mindful about what those are. So I'll stop there for a moment.
I love those questions. I wrote them down in the chat just so people could have them. But is what I'm about to do in alignment with the person I want to become? Love that. And is what I'm about to do in alignment with what I want to achieve going forward? I think those really break it down personally and professionally really well.
Good.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anything else on authority or like inner authority, inner wisdom, or inner self-trust before we move on to freeing yourself up tactically and emotionally?
Yeah. So a word that I will often suggest to people to take out of their vocabulary is the word should. So in the coaching world, sometimes don't should on yourself, right? Because there's the, well, I should do this, or well, I shouldn't do that. And it's like, okay, if you replace that with, how will this benefit me? If I wanted to do this, how would that change things for me? And there's also this reflection of like, instead of this is happening to me, that's been replaced with this is happening for me. But there's even one level further that you can go with that. It's if this wasn't happening just for me, but it's happening through me. Like I'm actually a contribution and an engaged part of this. And then I owned that. Then who do I need to be right now to move forward with whatever it is that I'm doing? And with that too, it's like, what do I want to create here? What do I need to see here? Again, it's all about asking yourself some really powerful open-ended questions And there is a distinction too between a closed-ended question or an open-ended question. And sometimes I coach people on that too, because they'll trap themselves unknowingly by asking themselves these closed-ended questions where the only answer really is a yes or a no. And then sometimes your own brain doesn't know where to go with that. Or if you're communicating with somebody else and you ask them a closed-ended question, they won't know where to go with that either. It just shuts them down. So if you ask an open-ended question, there's lots of possibility there. What else do I want to bring up? And sometimes saying no. Say no to things. Practice saying no.
No.
Yeah, good job. That's a good practice. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that felt really good just to say out loud.
Yeah.
And I loved what you said earlier too about like asking open-ended questions. I think that's really important, as opposed to like, or like, you know, you get what you ask. So if you want a close-ended question, then ask that. But yeah, super important. And then boundary setting, like saying no.
Oh, yeah. Well, I call them healthy parameters.
Okay.
I don't know if we have time to go into that, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to. Okay. Well, anything else then on how to build inner authority, inner wisdom, or self-trust before we move on?
Yeah, that last thing on boundaries. So
yeah,
boundaries in certain settings are absolutely appropriate. All that to say, when it comes to wanting to improve a relationship, which I believe deep down people really want to do, even in the workplace, yes, they want a relationship to be better. I call them healthy parameters, because a boundary is solid. Like, think of a boundary like a brick wall, or when you draw a line in the sand. There's that saying, like drawing the line in the sand. It's not movable. Like, you're basically saying, nope, you're over there, I'm over here, and I'm just gonna, you stay over there and I'm gonna stay over here. But where's the opportunity to heal things? Because it's sometimes about healing. So if you call it a healthy parameter, it's like, no, we can move it so that it can benefit both of us or one of us, depending on what's needed at that time. And that actually, creates an open dialogue about, okay, what works for you, what works for me, what doesn't work for you, what doesn't work for me, and to make sure that you're always in communication about it. And then you can move those parameters. So that also helps with developing self-trust, your inner knowing, and then other people will trust you too, because you're open.
Yeah. And if you know your parameters, then other people will start to learn your parameters. I really like that. I've never heard of the term healthy parameters over boundaries in some situations. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's just a little softer. So then should we move on to our last topic, which is free yourself up tactically and emotionally? Oh man. So that is hard because it's hard to free yourself up tactically. I mean, I'm a marketer, so my head goes to the tactics. I'm like thinking email, I'm thinking posts, I'm thinking video clips, I'm thinking all the things we got to do, the deliverables. And then emotionally, man, I'm thinking of like relationships, customers, parents, being a mom, school, all the things, and how do I free myself up from all of that in one topic? Yeah. All right, Alanna, kick us off here.
So that's, even just you going through all those are all roles that you have in your life.
Yeah.
And then again, going back to what we said earlier about not wanting to let people down, the emotional life of that, wanting to show up at your best, how can you be all things to all people? You can't. You're going to get drained. And if you think of like yourself as if you're a gas tank, you're going to drain all that fuel. And if you don't refuel yourself, then you actually are going to let down people even more if you don't take care of yourself. So, it's being really clear on priorities. What is your highest priority, especially in any given moment? And again, when it comes to the workplace, work-life balance, I know, is a very often used term, or health and wellness or well-being, which has become a higher priority, more cognizant for people, especially over the last few years. And it's being talked more and more in the work world, corporate world. And I see sometimes leaders working a lot on the weekend. or into the evening, how do you turn it off? Right? So again, it goes back to giving yourself permission to turning it off. And what are the expectations, setting expectations. And that might be sort of rules of engagement within your team, within your department, within your own life. And, yes, I don't know about you, but I'm managing 3 different email systems,
Wow.
3 different calendars. It's so even something as simple as time blocking on your calendar, being realistic about, based on priorities, what needs to get done that day, realistic about how much time it's going to take, sometimes blocking out more time than you think you might need. And guess what? If you don't need it, awesome. Now you've got, 20 minutes, 15 minutes to go do something else. Get yourself a glass of water, go outside and breathe the fresh air, ground yourself, take your shoes off in the grass, pet your dog, kiss your kid, send someone a text, say, hey, you crossed my mind. These days, if somebody crosses my mind, I don't wait. I immediately just say, hey, you crossed my mind. I don't know why. Instinctively, I'm just going to reach out and say, how are you?
Oh, I love that. They do. Yeah. We all need to get out and smell the roses a little more.
What are we here for?
Right.
Seriously, what are we here for? We're not here to, work to the extent where we're not enjoying ourselves. And if you have a family, being there with your family, that's super, super important. Yeah. And I know that can show up at work too, but how do I demonstrate commitment to work when, if I'm leaving early or leaving on time? Well, what do you want to communicate? What do you want to model to other people? What culture are you creating? I've been coaching this one person it's a year-long engagement. And what's interesting is her leader have said to her over and over, you need to stop working until 8:00 at night because you're setting an expectation with everybody that reports to you, and they're leading teams. And so she's having to really change the way. And it's really cool to see. She said, you know what? I actually went to my son's baseball game, and she hadn't done that in months.
Wow. Yeah, that's really hard, especially, when you're a working mom or parent in general. I often feel I can't be my best at both roles. I can't give my all to being a mom, and I can't give my all to being a business owner because I've got both that I'm trying to juggle. So it gets quite hard to, tactically do both, but then also to let go of the emotions of it, the guilt on both sides. I didn't get this done in work. I didn't get this done with parenting. To, like you said, free yourself up because we really do for our own health. We need time and to be better leaders and parents.
And it's the shoulds.
Mm-hmm.
The guilt, I would encourage you to look at, where's that guilt coming from? Whose voice is it? Is it yours? Is it somebody else's? What have you heard that is causing you to feel that? What was modeled to you that's causing you to feel that? What was demonstrated as how things are supposed to be that makes you think this is how you're supposed to do it too?
Oh, boom. That was deep, Alanna. I think you're not I know where I got that view.
Because there's the tactical and then there's the deeper emotional life, and you can't separate the two.
Yeah, you really can't. It's difficult, especially when you run a business and you work from home. It's especially hard, because it's just all blended together.
Completely, yeah. Well, and it's going to exhaust you even more and drain you even more when you feel pulled in 2 different directions. When people truly reconnect with who they are at their core, and they do everything in alignment with their high priority values, And then those are the healthy parameters that you create. It all connects.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you show up more powerfully. That's when you actually get more energized. That's when you actually are more productive. And then you have a more inspiring impact on the other people, especially if it's a team that you lead.
Yeah. And you're more likely to get into that flow state, I feel like, where you're just like happy, accomplishing things, getting things done. It's easy to just move forward. But anyone in the comments, like I know there's a couple people on YouTube who are coming in and out, and then we've got LinkedIn, a couple people hanging out there just watching, like, how do you free yourself up tactically and emotionally? I like to walk in the morning. That's
Okay.
I do yoga as well. Um, there I am I'm shitting on myself again.
It's an easy habit. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that saying because now I'm going to think of that every time and I'm like, nope, not going to shit it anymore. Not going to shit on myself.
What's the benefit, right? Like it benefits me by, right? Like I too have sort of a morning ritual, if you will. You know, I get up, I go take my dog on a walk. It gets my body moving. And then we come back, I feed her, and then I get ready to come at my desk. And it also allows me to unplug. I leave my cell phone at home. I know that might be uncomfortable for people, but I figure, you know what? The world's not going to end in the next 20, 30 minutes.
Right.
You know, unless I'm urgently waiting for an email or a phone call, but rarely is it ever life or death, really. So it's an opportunity to unplug, and I feel it. I feel the difference. And then, you know, doing things throughout the day, you know, like scheduling. Some people schedule back to back meetings all day long, like 60 minute, half an hour. I always say, if you can get away with it, maybe turn a 30-minute meeting into 25 or a 60-minute meeting into 50. See how much you can accomplish in a shorter period of time. You might be surprised that you don't really need it. And then with that extra time, you can do other things. And then we can get into it another time. But I also have heart math or heart-centered heart science techniques that I teach clients or do with clients, especially at the beginning of a session, to get both of us present. So neither of us are bringing in to the session what has previously occurred, especially just in the last half hour.
Right. Yeah. Like if you were to go jump to one of those sessions after a live stream, you'd be totally like, what? Yeah. You need a little minute to get heart centered there. Yeah. So what does that look like? Is that, a breathing technique, or just curious?
Yeah. So it is. It's part of it is breathing. So like quick, interesting information about the heart compared to the brain. So I learned a lot about this. I've been a geek about brain science for many years, and now I'm a geek about heart science and frequency, as I said earlier. But who knew that the heart is 100,000 times stronger electrically than the brain? And it's 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. And they've been able to measure the electromagnetic frequency emanating outside of our body from our heart versus our head. And they can measure it. It goes further, but they're able to actually measure it by up to 3 feet outside of our body, even though they know it goes further. Whereas measuring it, say, when you think a thought outside of your head, they can only measure it by about an inch.
Wow.
Yep. And more information in terms of intelligence, it's what's called heart's intelligence. More information travels from our heart to our brain than from our brain to our heart. So it goes this way, not this way.
From our heart to our brain, more intelligence.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So going back to the technique, it's a breathing technique. So we just get quiet. I teach them how to breathe from here. You know, imagine your breath is coming in, in and out of your heart or chest area.
Mm-hmm.
That in and of itself, that's just heart-focused breathing. That in and of itself is its own technique.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have them think about appreciation and kindness and genuine connection and, deep listening. And so how I use it is I start thinking about all the people that day that I'm grateful for, and all the people and things that I appreciate, and how this person sitting in front of me, like sitting with you. I did one before this live, actually.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. To genuinely connect with you, and ideally say whatever needs to be said for whoever's tuning in, whether they're tuning in right now or those that are going to watch the recording, that maybe I said something tonight that's going to resonate with them. So that's the genuine connection, heart to heart, frequency, and deep listening for what's necessary. And then the last step is emanating that out. So pushing it out even further, because we can actually energetically, it might sound a little woo-woo-y, but
I like woo-woo-y.
More and more, I'm loving the woo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I think that could be a whole episode in itself. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I could lead everybody through a shift. It's called a shift and lift.
Yeah.
It's 2 minutes. Yeah.
I want to shift and lift. That sounds fun.
I love it.
I love it too. So, I mean, anything else on freeing yourself up tactically or emotionally, Alanna?
Just that when you get feedback, whether it's verbal or behavioral, just remember it's not a verdict. It's just feedback. It's trying to communicate something to you, and it's an opportunity to self-reflect, to understand that you have impact, no matter where you are, who you're with, or what you're doing. We all have more power than we think we have. Sometimes we give it away. That's a whole other talk or live. But, just to look at what feedback you're getting. And sometimes it can feel like you did something wrong or you made a mistake. And the interesting thing about saying something is a mistake, what I realized years ago, is that we only call something a mistake in retrospect. It's not like I go to do something and I think to myself with gusto, I'm going to make the biggest mistake of my life right now. No, I'm just going to go do something that I feel drawn to doing, or because I'm excited about it, or I think it's the right thing to do in that moment, or it might be required of me. And I do it in the best way that I know possible in that moment. It's when things don't go according to plan, and then people in retrospect call it a mistake. Well, what if you didn't call it a mistake? What if it's just feedback? What is it trying to tell you? What is it trying to communicate to you about yourself, about that person, about the situation, about the topic, about whatever it is that you're doing so that you can grow? Because unfortunately, it's as living souls, we more often grow when things don't go well than when they do.
That reminds me, going back to the name of the title of the show is Alchemize, like how we were saying earlier, you can alchemize pain or alchemize love. And so it sounds like what you're saying is more people know how to alchemize pain. Am I getting it backwards? Or no, more people know how to alchemize love, not pain.
Yeah, it's easier. When we're in a love state, it's easier. There's not much we have to do. We're just being with each other. We're enjoying it. It feels good. It's harder to do it when it doesn't feel good, when things don't go the way you wanted them to go, or maybe you didn't even think about it. And then you're in this situation where, you think, gosh, how do I fix this? And then it can be scary to go and fix it. And I always say it's never too late ever to go back and fix it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just hearing, are there some nature sounds in the background there?
Oh, I'm wondering if it's my fan. Sorry, it's really hot here right now.
I kind of like it. I thought I just heard birds. Is that my computer? Because I'm not seeing anything playing.
I don't know. There are birds here, though. That every once in a while somebody asks me, "Is that a bird?" Yep, it's a bird.
The birds have been pretty intense this season around here in Ohio. I know when I go out for my walks in the morning, they've been really loud this season. It's been really beautiful.
I love it. Yes, I love the sound of the birds. I usually have, right now I have the AC on with everything closed up. So I wasn't sweating during this, but Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so good. So I guess the whole season or this whole, show, there's going to be like so much more that you're digging into. We just kind of touched the surface of it. So, I mean, I'm just sort of looking at your list of shows here and just to give people a sneak peek of some of the things they might be able to expect from the episodes coming. There's one that's like releasing the pressure to always be productive and how to stop outsourcing your decisions and tuning out the noise and tune into yourself. I mean, anything else like you might want to share in terms of like the topics or the types of guests you bring on that people who are watching today should come back in a couple of weeks to experience again?
Yeah. Well, I had a conversation with someone today. I won't say who it is. She's a contract specialist and does private member agreements. And she's not an attorney, but she knows public legalese and private lawful language. And yet there's ways to pull that into agreements. And so what I love about where we're going with this is there's the tactical and then there's the emotional, and having those two worlds meet no matter what it is that we're doing. And it can even show up in terms of contracts and agreements, all the different contexts and scenarios as to how that can show up, whether it's in business partnership or a referral or agreements with employees. It's really important to understand all the different levels to these things from a practical standpoint, emotional standpoint, and possibly even a spiritual standpoint, even though people might have different belief systems.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, like we can all be spiritual in our own way, I feel like, right? Like um, I like how, I can't remember who says this quote. There was someone I heard say it. Her name's Queen. It's a woman named Queen who's a singer and artist, but it's Qveen. Anyway, so she's like, in terms of like manifestation, at least, all religions kind of are pointing toward the same thing. So call it prayer, call it, a witch's spell or manifestation or placebo. It's all the same thing. It's all just like it's manifestation at the end of the day. It's just
Yeah.
different people sort of see it differently. And I think sort of the same thing with like religion, spiritually, we're all spiritual. There's a spiritualness about religion, but because we faced this at the retreat that I host last year, where we were going deep and doing the inner work. So of course religion came up, and you've got all three major Abrahamic religions there, represented. And so just our way of sort of finding common denominators was spirituality. Like as women, it was like we were connecting over the moon and looking at, I guess you could say, I don't want to say witchy type things, but like traditionally, yeah, that would have been a little bit more witchy to look at the moon. But, we were really just like tying the cycles of the moon, like the new moon to new beginnings and associating with our business. And then the full moon was like letting go. But I don't know, there's a way spiritually, I think you can connect with all people.
Yeah.
Religion.
So manifestation, I mean, that's also a word that gets thrown around a lot, and it means different things to different people. A word that I think is more universal and a lot of people can relate to is declaration. Like what's something that you're going to declare for yourself,
Yeah.
and to really declare it like that. When people are confronted with that, they start to realize like, oh, I am afraid to say this. Sometimes people say things out loud in sessions with me that they admit they've never said out loud before, or they state things that they want to have happen. They've never given themselves permission to say it because for whatever reason, circumstances, people in their lives, they don't feel like they can. You know, and that again, it's gonna inevitably have you show up differently when you give yourself permission to declare something, because once you say it out loud, and our voice, speaking of frequency, The sound of our voice has a frequency. Music has a frequency. In fact, the way that music is programmed these days is different than if I forget if it's like 440 or 432 hertz. I forget which it currently is and what it used to be. And what it used to be is actually better for us. And people are starting to go back to producing music in the older frequency because it's actually helpful to us and healing for us as human beings.
Ooh, I love that.
So when you hear the sound of your own voice declaring something out loud, it's really powerful. Like you can feel, like right now, me saying this, I can feel the resonance of me saying it. I mean, it's giving me the chills up and down my spine.
I had no idea about our own voice with that, but there is something with frequency and healing. I mean, I'm a sound healer, so when we play sound bowls, and you do it in person. Really, it's great to do it online or just listen to it on Spotify. But when you can go to a sound bath in person and really feel the vibrations, it's a different experience. But it's like in Eastern medicine, it's like the stagnant energy is where disease starts. And when you have those sound frequencies moving through your body, it moves the stagnant energy. And literally after a good sound bath, if you're laying down and relaxing for a good 40 minutes, like you might get up and feel like you just went to the chiropractor or like, who've been hit by a truck, like I've heard people say, because it really does like actually have a physical impact, the sound does, on our bodies. And yeah, for me, sound was something that like forced me to relax because I was at one point, a busy CEO of a Series C SaaS company. And it was like at home pandemic kindergarten at the same time and blah, 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 blah. I couldn't do it all. I was not superhuman. And ended up with shingles. But one thing I ended up finding out was a way that I could relax and like take away all of the like noise was through sound healing. That's how I got involved with it. There was a local place I would go to. They'd play a sound bath. I'm like, this is the only thing that shuts my mind down. It just like sound is very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to what you were asking about, like the tactical things that somebody can do, it's going to be different for everybody. I mean, some people it's reading a book or watching a TV show. Others it's going to be like a walk in nature, doing like listening to a podcast or hearing frequency-based music, something that's soothing to you. So it's going to be different for everybody. There's no one right way to do it. And I love that I'm hearing more and more about how the traditional, corporate work world is starting to integrate a little bit with other practices, other modalities, like even senior level leaders. And I work with mostly men, by the way. I work with 85 to 90% men. And they love the shift and lift. I had one director at he was at a construction supplier company. And he'd been there for 20 years. And he loved it to the point where I showed up one time for a session and he said, Alanna, I have to tell you, you forgot to do the shift and lift with me last time. It was so funny. And I said his name and I'm like, well, hold on a second. You don't have to wait for me. I apologize. And I'm so sorry. I'll for sure make sure I do this every time at the beginning. And then I said, wait a second. You don't have to wait for me to do it. You can go do it on your own. I sent you the handout. And he turns around and he shows me the printout. And I'm like, see, you got it right there. It takes 2 minutes. Well, the cool thing was the next time we got together, he said, Alanna, I have to tell you, he said, I did it. Because I said, start practicing this yourself throughout the day when you feel called to do it. Or you go into a meeting that's really important. You just want to be present. Just try it on. So he did. He, because he worked there for 20 years. He was senior leader. He had access to the CEO. So he said he did it before he went into a meeting with the CEO. And he said for the first time in 20 years, the CEO looked at him and said, you're doing a great job.
Wow.
Now, was it because of the shift and lift? I don't know.
Probably. Yeah, he was glowing.
Right. But I don't believe in coincidence anymore. So
Exactly. I think it was because of the shift and lift.
I don't know. So yeah.
I love that so much. I'm so excited for your show. And I mean, for your, I hope we get to do the shift and lift on the show. I mean, that's going to be epic.
Do that. Yeah, we can. In fact, the next time we get together, I'll remind me, and we can do it at the start.
Yeah, because if you do it on the show, then we'll have a recording and we can make a clip of it. So then people can like always go back to your clip of your shift and lift. If you're willing to share it with the world like that. But yeah, no, this is going to be a really good episode, Alanna. Yeah. I'm so excited for Alchemize with Alanna.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you being on the journey with me. And
yeah,
the train has left the station.
It sure has. Well, I guess it would be great if people could go follow your company page. Do you want to spell out your company page and where they can find that?
Oh, yes. It is I Love My Life Coaching. So, God, how do I have it exactly?
I can tag it in the comments here. I love my life coaching. So yeah, if people can go follow the company page, then we can start going live on the company page. But until then, we'll still be live on your personal page.
Great.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, then I have an outro video that will go ahead and close us out on your first episode. Thank you, Alanna, and everyone else who watched. See you next time.
Thanks for those that came. Thanks, Jessie.
Bye.